All right, back on TYT, Cenk and Ana with you guys. More news.
So I just want to address something. I was wrong about Project 2025. MAGA hates Project 2025, and I thought that Donald Trump actually cared about his base because in his first term, he seemed to be swayed by his base. He seemed to listen to his base. This time around, not so much. So Russell Vought, as the head of the Office of Management and Budget, and considering what he just did with the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, makes it abundantly clear to me that they are implementing Project 2025. So I will admit when I'm wrong, I was wrong. I totally predicted incorrectly what would happen with Project 2025.
The big vanguard will be yeah, the hives are coming out, everybody. We told you so. Let's get into the Young Turks backpedaling as fast as they can.
Yep, absolutely. Before we take a look at the TYT clip from the other night, let's just take a little trip down memory lane. So if you just type in TYT Project 2025, beautifully, the first search result, Trump's plan is not Project 2025. Who could believe it? That's crazy. Let's take a quick look and see exactly what Ana had to say in this clip. Then we're going to take a look at one more.
So I totally believe this reporting. I think this is actually accurate reporting. And if reporters didn't just serve as stenographers for the Democratic Party, they would have maybe found out there's a different think tank that literally has the same slogan as Donald Trump, and they might have reported on that ahead of time instead, but they didn't. Go ahead,
And
Jake.
his top staffers were connected to it, including Kellyanne.
So this video is about how there's another plan that's, way less concerning than Project 2025. That, all these liberals in mainstream media and all these Democrats, they're freaking out and they want to fear monger about Project 2025. But in reality, there's this other one that like Kellyanne Conway is behind or something. And it's way less scary. It's way less scary. Actually, if Trump gets into power, it might not even be that dramatic at all. It's probably just going to be like any other Republican administration, right?
Yeah, I remember we reacted to this at the same time. And to Cenk's credit, this was before he had gone so soft on MAGA. He's actually pushing back on her from what I remember in this clip.
No, he's not.
No?
In this one, he's not. There were other ones where he did. In this one, no, he goes on to say, yep, this is the real plan. I think we can watch him say that right here.
Conway, et cetera. So these guys are definitely in charge. And one of the Trump staffers on his campaign team said, they're not the transition team, but they kind of are. They said, he said, in effect, they are. They've got, because we didn't have time to plan it. And here's a hilarious part of the story before I get to the worst part of the story. They said Trump is superstitious, so he didn't want to talk about a transition team at all before he won, which then greatly delays them.
Either way, that's the main part of that one. If we go on to this, however, there's some more pretty embarrassing commentary from Ana Kasparian, and people in the comments have even recently pointed that out. This person says, what do you have to say now? You really were complicit. If we take a look at this, I mean, it's pretty shocking the degree to which she downplayed and minimized the reality of Project 2025 and whether or not Trump would actually implement some of these ideas.
Yeah, that's crazy because I for whatever reason I remember covering. I felt like Cenk was a little more rational on Project 2025 than Ana. But yeah, let's go ahead and play this because I could use a refresher for sure.
There were a few debates between the two where Cenk pushed back a little bit and said that there was a bigger chance it would actually
it was
be
the Heritage Foundation's project and all that shit. But
but yeah, take a look at this, guys. This one's absolutely wild.
I don't know what the hell it is. It's Project 25. He's involved in Project, and then they read some of the things and they are extreme. I mean, they're seriously extreme, but I don't know anything about it.
Project 2025, I'm sure you heard of it. It was cooked up by the right-wing think tank known as the Heritage Foundation, and has been such a thorn in Trump's side that his team successfully pushed for the ouster of its director, a guy by the name of Paul Dans. Now, the Trump campaign did not author Project 2025. You might think they do because Democrats make it appear as though Trump himself wrote it, but it has been attributed to his campaign by Democrats as part of their political strategy. And I think that it is wrong to do this because when you inaccurately attribute something to Trump, when you cry wolf, well, when he actually does pose a threat on things, people are going to be fatigued from the fear mongering. And so I want wolf, well, do this because political strategy. And I think that it is wrong to do this because when you inaccurately attribute something to Trump, when you cry wolf, well,
we'll watch some more, but who the fuck was actually pretending that Donald Trump wrote Project 2025? Obviously, no one thinks that Donald Trump sat down with a pen and paper and wrote Project 2025. I think most Trump critics understand that Trump is too lazy, he's too incompetent, he's too stupid to actually craft any of the real policy that's going to get pushed through under his administration. Therefore, yeah, hence the existence of Project 2025. Hence the existence of all these policy writers coming together to compile this document to get him to push through on their behalf. Like, obviously, that was always the assertion. Not that Trump came up with it, not that he organically created it from scratch.
Yeah, Trump has never organically come up with a policy in his entire life. In fact, most policymakers do not. They rely on the lobbyist threads. It's part of the really, fucking corrupt element of our government. And TYT has made so much content over the years about the Heritage Foundation and how evil they are and how they've embedded themselves in all elements of the Republican Party, which is why I imagine that there would have been some pushback from Cenk, because what Anna's saying is completely untrue. And not only, again, I'm not sure exactly when this clip was uploaded. I don't know if we knew about JD Vance or not by this time. But
6 months ago?
6 months ago, we definitely knew about JD Vance. That would have been 4 months before the election. That would have been August. We would have known JD Vance would have been. So that was at a point where it was absolutely inarguable after that. This is a trad cath. I want to return back to the, old school ways of American society. We have to ban porn. We have to stop transing the youth. This was the whole reason you pick a guy like JD Vance. It was a huge signal to that faction of the Republican Party that Trump was still with you, that he hadn't gone soft.
And remember, JD Vance literally wrote the foreword for the Heritage Foundation guy's book.
They're like this. They're directly connected. That's why after JD Vance is a selection as the VP, it was inarguable that it was going to be a part of the campaign.
Yeah, and honestly, even before JD Vance was picked, I think it's pretty inarguable. I mean, look who picked every single one of Trump's Supreme Court justices. It was the Heritage Foundation. All of Trump's SCOTUS picks came directly from the Heritage Foundation list of approved justices. I mean, how much more owned can you be if they're literally picking your SCOTUS picks? Either way, let's keep watching this. It's pretty crazy, guys.
When he actually does pose a threat on things, people are going to be fatigued from the fear mongering. And so I want to make my case on this. Now, let's get back to the director of Project 2025. Paul Danz's exit comes after the project completed exactly what it set out to do, bringing together over 110 leading conservative organizations to create a unified conservative vision, motivated to devolve power from the unelected administrative state and returning it to the people. Heritage Foundation.
That is the Silicon Valley corporate speak for what Elon Musk is doing to our government right now, right? Leading the conservative organizations to create a unified conservative vision motivated to devolve power from the unelected administrative state. What they're trying to do is they're trying to get rid of the Department of Education. They're defanging the SEC. They're defanging the institutional powers that maintain checks and balances on the executive branch. They're outsourcing responsibilities that once were exclusively held by the president. Now it's some guy that's from South Africa that's the richest man in the world that not only has awarded himself a $400 million contract, so he's already doubled his money that he invested in Donald Trump's campaign election. He's now up for billions and billions in dollars in tax benefits. So absolutely astronomical transfers of wealth going on over here. And it's exactly what they said they were going to do. They're just doing exactly what they said they were going to do.
Yep. Let's hear her minimize that and downplay it.
President Kevin Roberts said in a statement. Now, as you heard from the video that you watched a little earlier, Trump has very aggressively disavowed Project 2025. There are portions of Project 2025, namely on immigration policy, that Trump does agree with and he campaigns heavily on. But as Associated Press notes, Trump has repeatedly disavowed the document, saying on social media he hasn't read it and doesn't know anything about it. At a rally in Michigan earlier this month, he said Project 2025 was written by people on the severe right. I agree with him on that. And some of the things in it are seriously extreme. I agree with him on that as well. Now, it's important to keep in mind that while there's a big, worry about Project 2025 right now, this is a document similar to what the Heritage Foundation releases literally every election cycle. In fact, it dates back to the Reagan administration. Now, the document itself has differed from election cycle to election cycle, of course. But the Heritage Foundation has been in the game.
What? Yes, and you've been talking about it, and they've been doing horrible things to our entire country since the Reagan administration, and that's bad. And they've been more emboldened, and that's bad. And they've had wins in the courts, which is bad. And oh yeah, that's why we should pretend that they aren't capable of accomplishing shit. You fucking hear yourself speak. What's crazy about this also, guys? What's crazy about this is the way that she response to Donald Trump is how he wants the most gullible Americans on earth to respond. Oh no, those are the extreme people that I constantly surround myself with, that every element of my cabinet is going to be staffed by, that all of the aides that surround me are going to be ardent supporters of. Oh yeah, the crazy extremists that happen to make up every single person I come in contact with. Yeah, that is the whole point of a Heritage Foundation. It is to normalize that. Do you think anybody believes Donald Trump has read a goddamn thing? He hasn't read his Build a Wall bill. He hasn't read his tax cuts for the wealthy. Does that mean that he didn't get them through Congress? Does that mean that even with all of his sloth, all of his laziness, all of his lethargy, the fact that he only cares about jerking off, drinking Diet Coke, and watching Fox News videos of himself, he still was able to accomplish that? Why? Because the mechanisms of power were set in motion to get it done with or without him. All he had to do was be the face of it in the executive branch. And that's exactly what's happening right now. And you were so foolish. You were so dumb. And you were played like a fiddle by the right wing, which is insanity, because you're supposed to be not just independent media, but independent progressive media. And now you're neither.
Yep, 100%. And it's awful too, because now that Trump actually is president, Anna wants to come out here and lecture the left and lecture the Democratic Party about how they can't properly resist Donald Trump and his agenda. They can't properly call it out, which, by the way, is true. But one thing that the Democratic Party and that the left-wing media actually did do a good job of in the lead up to this election was trying to sound the alarms about Project 2025, right? Saying, hey, guys, you can actually read what they're going to do. It's already been published. They were stupid enough to release this to the public. It's terrifying. Their plans are out in the open. Go look at it. And guess who was there to fucking downplay it instead of add to the chorus? This woman. She was there to red pill her audience and to downplay the threat of Project 2025 and say, oh, it's no different than what the project or what the Heritage Foundation always does. It's no different. They do this every time. Stop freaking out. Stop fear mongering. That was her message. But of course, now she wants to be like, the Democrats don't know how to resist. The left doesn't know how to resist. They have no teeth. They're not aggressive. Like, that was you. You're the problem. This exact attitude is the problem. That was the problem.
100%.
Aim for a long time. And they do this again every election cycle. It's the think tank's way of pushing the Republican candidate and, in their hopes, the Republican president eventually to carry out what their agenda is. But associating it with the Trump campaign because some former Trump administration officials are now part of the Heritage Foundation, I think is a little bit unfair. Now, here's how the Trump campaign reacted to the ouster of Paul Dans.
The Trump campaign appeared to cheer Paul Dans's departure tonight, even though he is an alum of the Trump administration. He served in the OPM office, saying in a quote, its demise would be greatly welcome.
And by the way, this was obvious fucking kabuki theater even at the time. They fired the guy and they're distancing themselves. Like, obviously that was all just to trick people into thinking that Trump wasn't in favor of Project 2025 when he always was.
Yeah, this is what's crazy. It's like I don't know if it's fair to say that Anna is a useful idiot. I don't want to, I don't have any proof for that other than the fact that she's taken a bunch of poly market money and changed all of her beliefs over the last 18 months. There is so much bad shit of Ana Kasparian. I'm not making anything up about her. But what I will say is it's hard for me to believe that somebody who has spent over a decade and a half in the chair as a media analyst, as a news critic, whatever the hell you would call Anna's role at the Young Turks, somebody who has taught journalism in a college setting, to not look at this and be like, oh yeah, we call this propaganda. We call this getting played. This is called doing politics. And if you're not sophisticated, you would be duped by this really easily. And you would say exactly what Anna said. But for somebody who's a professional, you're supposed to call what Gavin called. And that's be like, this is kabuki theater. This is nonsense. This is Fugazi. This is them doing a head fake on you so that you think something happening. And do you know who did that all the time during his first term, Gavin? Donald Trump. Donald Trump was the master of the sleight of hand. Oh, I'm just going to rotate my cabinet positions. I'm just going to rotate the villains first. That guy's, oh no, we're dealing with the John Boltons of the administration. Now we're going to have some other guy come in because we're kicking John Bolton to the curb. It's like, yeah, but they're going to do the same thing, right? It's going to be the same end. And what you're supposed to say is, hey, this is a revolving door of criminals who want to do all kinds of crimes to the American public. And there are no boundaries that they will not cross to do that if we empower them even a little bit.
Yep, absolutely. Let's take a little bit more of this in before we watch, Anna's most recent statement where she addresses this coverage, which is already, aged like milk.
We just got tagged.
Or any group trying to misrepresent their influence with President Trump and his campaign. It will not end well for you.
Now, in addition to that, Trump's campaign advisors, Susie Wiles and Chris LaCivita, went even further and released a statement saying that President Trump's campaign has been very clear for over a year that Project 2025 had nothing to do with the campaign, did not speak for the campaign, and should not be associated with the campaign or the president in any way. Reports of Project 2025's demise would be greatly welcomed and should serve as notice to anyone or any group trying to misrepresent their influence with President Trump and his campaign. It will not end well for you. And one thing that I will note is that Trump isn't disavowing Project 2025 because he's trying to appeal to the libs, okay? He's disavowing it because MAGA Republicans ain't about the Heritage Foundation brand of conservatism. There is a very obvious split in the Republican Party that I think a lot of Democrats are unaware of. There are the traditional conservative Republicans, they're the war hawks, they're the individuals who are very extreme when it comes to social issues. And then there are the more isolationist MAGA Republicans. These are the America First crowd. They don't like what's in Project 2025. And so what Trump is doing in disavowing it is trying to appease or appeal to members of his own base. So again, like
what would the MAGA base not like about Project 2025? That's what I'm trying to understand, Anna. And also, absolute negligence to read Donald Trump pressers as the news without any context and scrutiny. To be like, well, he's saying this, but why might he be putting this message out? We never hear that from her. It's like third grade media literacy. You read the news and you're like, well, okay, I read that, but why did they write it? That's something you have to keep in the back of your mind. So when I'm reading a press release from a fucking crook politician who has made an entire career off of lying, cheating, and stealing, I might not look at it as, oh, well, he's just speaking from the heart. Like, are you dumber than rocks? It's fucking infuriating to watch this. And
then say they're trying to appease MAGA Republicans. I didn't hear a single critical word about Project 2025, even from the few conservatives I would consider like to be good faith or truly.
No, Soccer wasn't out here beating that drum or any of these other dumbasses.
I didn't hear anyone on the MAGA right, criticizing Project 2025 at all. We'll get into more of that later. But yeah, let's just take a little bit more of this in before we jump to the very recent present.
Knows that it's actually politically advantageous to not be associated with something that is not popular with the America First MAGA crowd. Now, Washington Post reporter Isaac Arnsdorf, who's been following this story very closely, discloses some really important facts about how the Heritage Foundation agenda was developed in the first place, and the timing of how they developed it is also really important. And guys, I'm not telling you this because I'm trying to defend Donald Trump. I'm telling you this because I don't want people living in fear because Democrats are attributing something that Trump didn't write to Donald Trump. So with that in mind, take a look.
Again, no one said Donald Trump wrote Project 2025. I'm sorry, but literally no one said that. Everyone agrees that Donald Trump is a total fucking idiot who's too stupid to write something like Project 2025. That's the whole reason why it's so scary, because he's a vessel. He's just a fucking vessel for corporate America so they can finish the Reagan Revolution, right? So they can get everything they ever wanted in their most wild anarcho-capitalist dreams out of him. Because again, he's too fucking lazy and stupid and belligerent to actually be a president himself.
And do you know what I think is deeply vile about the tone that the Young Turks has taken? And people ask us, why do you guys cover this like flies on shit? And I'm like, it's because of moments like this that really make me fucking insane. They're supposed to be the progressive watchdogs of YouTube. They are absolutely not anymore, right? That's why we're doing this. But the way that they present it to their audience is that they're so compassionate, that they're actually so much more progressive than everyone else, that deep down, they want their audience to be needlessly afraid. They're worried about you. They don't want you to go to sleep at night worried about something that's just the boogeyman, that's not going to be borne out by reality, when what they should be doing is encouraging you to be vigilant, encouraging you to resist, and encouraging you to take these serious things seriously. And it's not just this issue of Project 2025. I want to bring up a supplemental issue where Cenk said there was absolutely no way that we were going to build concentration camps overseas, that there was no way that the Guantanamo Bay stuff was going to happen, that it was all just malarkey, that it was all liberal fear-mongering. Well, let's take a look right here. This is a report from Dropsite News. Report, U.S. sending migrants with no criminal record to Guantanamo Bay. That's called a concentration camp. We are taking people who have not committed crimes and sending them to a concentration camp that is on a black site, that is fucking not under the surveillance of any of our rules of law that we hold to be valuable as Americans, okay? What do you call that? I call that a concentration camp. Despite Trump's vow to only detain the worst migrants at Guantanamo Bay, CBS reports that the administration is also sending low-risk detainees, migrants with no serious criminal records or no record at all. Here is a photograph. Imagine being this man right here, this guy who's a young dude. All right. Imagine how horrifying that is. He doesn't know what he's being charged with. He doesn't know if he'll ever get to leave. He doesn't know where he's going. He doesn't know how they're going to treat him. He does know that Americans get tortured on Guantanamo Bay. He does know all of the atrocities that have already been done on Guantanamo Bay. And Cenk Uygur actually admonished leftists who were raising the fucking warning bells about this and saying, we cannot allow this to happen. Donald Trump is willing to do this and more. And just because right now it's undocumented, folks, you think that's going to stop the Trump-Vance administration, the Elon Musk administration, the stacked courts from preventing that? No. They'll be like, oh, no, those people weren't really American citizen. We've revoked their birthright because they're organized in terrorism or something. And boom. Now those people who were Americans have lost their rights too. And that's a slippery slope, man, because the thing about rights is you're not supposed to fucking take them from people.
Yeah, 100%, 100%. And again, I showed you guys this a second ago, but I think that it's 100% true. Like I mentioned, this comment where somebody says, you really were complicit. What do you have to say now to Ana Kasparian? They totally red-pilled their audience, guys. They gave permission to all these former progressives and liberals in their audience who at one point really did take this threat seriously. They basically said, oh, it's actually not that big of a deal. You know, don't fall for all this fear-mongering. Even though we were the ones to push the bullshit story that was Russiagate last time, now we're going to tell you not to take the actual threats of Donald Trump seriously this time around because the left was mean to us on Twitter or something, bunch of stupid reasons. But you know, got to give a little ounce of credit where it's due. At least Ana Kasparian has had the decency on a recent TYT live stream to come out here and admit that she got that one wrong. So you ready to take a look at this, Zach? Pretty satisfying to see.
100%.
All right, back on TYT. Cenk and Ana with you guys. More news.
So I just want to address something. I was wrong about Project 2025. MAGA hates Project 2025, and I thought that Donald Trump actually cared about his base.
And by the way, before we watch that again, because it's so funny, you know, I just don't agree with that assertion that MAGA hates Project 2025. I remember right after Donald Trump was elected, there was a viral tweet from Matt Walsh saying, now that the election is over, I think we can finally say that, yeah, actually, Project 2025 is the agenda, LOL. And I saw this sentiment all over the place. You know, a bunch of people that were like, we might have pretended to disagree with Project 2025 for 5 seconds, but yeah, no, that's the plan. That's the project. Hell yeah, get ready. Again, Matt Walsh is a MAGA conservative. I don't know what this distinction she's drawing is, but that seemed pretty indicative of the response to me.
Yeah, and also pretty crazy to be like, oh, JD Vance isn't MAGA, as we mentioned earlier. Here's an article where you can read 5 key excerpts from JD Vance's foreword to Project 2025 Leaders book. Okay, MAGA does love Project 2025. Elon Musk is probably the most MAGA Doge-coded guy on planet Earth. He came in and did exactly what Project 2025 was discussing. Like, I don't know if you guys think that Project 2025 is like amorphous. We wake up in the last stage of the Third Reich. Okay, but that wasn't what we were talking about. We were talking about the slow erosion of civil liberties that will continue to accelerate over time exponentially, and we want to nip them in the bud as early as possible. Okay, and guess what? That's all been borne out into reality.
Yeah, and just the incredible, the swift, you know, dismantling of our government, which has not been slow at all. I mean, it's like 2 weeks in, and it's just been a wrecking ball already. So,
and it'll only get worse.
And that was 100% the plan of Project 2025.
Because in this
Either way, let's go back just a few seconds so we can hear this again in all of its glory.
And also, really quickly, because Chad's bitching. Guys, I meant slow. Like, you think it can't get worse from here? You guys think this is it? Yeah. Buckle up. More shit is going to come crumbling the fuck down if we don't mobilize. That's all I was saying.
Yeah, 100%.
All right, back on TYT. Cenk and Ana with you guys. More news.
So I just want to address something. I was wrong about Project 2025. MAGA hates Project 2025, and I thought that Donald Trump actually cared about his base because in his first term, he seemed to be swayed by his base. He seemed to listen to his base. This time around, not so much. So Russell Vought, as the head of the Office of Management and Budget, and considering what he just did with the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, makes it abundantly clear to me that they are implementing Project 2025. So I will admit when I'm wrong, I was wrong. I totally predicted incorrectly what would happen with Project 2025.
So a couple of people wrote in about it. And first of all, Ana and I had a little bit of a disagreement.
And again, like Zach and I also, we've made some predictions that haven't come true. Don't get me wrong.
Kamala was going to win.
It's not about that. Yeah, we misjudged. We thought Kamala Harris was going to win. We put a little bit too much faith in our fellow countrymen, apparently. But this was obvious. Like, this was obvious. This is like, your fucking political commentary card should be revoked if you can't see this one.
Agreement about that on the show. So that's what we do on this show. We do honest conversation, and sometimes, a lot of times we agree, sometimes we disagree. So I'm saying me and Ana, me and Ana and many of the other hosts disagree often, right? And that's what you do when you're in a normal conversation. And by the way, we do not get entrenched into positions and never get out of them for the sake of ego or anything along those lines. Our job is to be as honest with you as humanly possible. So I love that Ana just said that. She had a reason for thinking that. She explained it on the show. I didn't buy exactly what those guys were saying, and she didn't buy exactly what they were saying. Right?
Bro, it's like Cenk's like, here's the bus. Get in front of it, Ana. I'm throwing you right under the bus, pancake style. As you demonstrated at the beginning of this live stream, I thought Cenk was going to come in with some fiery pushback when she was downplaying Project 2025. But during the clip that they sat next to each other, he basically was like, well, actually, I think you're right. It's going to be this less bad version of Project 2025. Meanwhile, now Ana has the courage, as he's putting it, to come out and say that. And what's he doing? He's pretending like he was right all along because he's a fucking bastard.
Right? But she thought there was a chance for the reasons she just stated because of his base, etc. Well, and by the way, then I turned to MAGA and say, guys, you said you were against Project 2025 and now they are implementing.
No, they didn't.
So you just heard what Ana said, which I think is, the right way to go about it. So
I mean,
I'm curious whether anybody in the MAGA base is going to go, yeah, Russell Vought was the author of Project 2025. And he did say to cut the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, et cetera. And remember one more thing, Russell Vaught's from the Heritage Foundation. Project 2025 is from the Heritage Foundation. That is not a populist think tank at all. It is
not, no,
it's
traditional.
Purely corporate think tank.
Yes, it is a.
Now you're critical of them.
You want to think about like the Liz Cheneys and the Bushes and like that brand of Republicanism. That's what the Heritage Foundation is. So I understand.
It's all the same, Ana. It is all the same. JD Vance writes the intro to the Heritage Foundation's book. Heritage Foundation bankrolls Donald Trump. Donald Trump is still fucking, Mitch McConnell can put all of his performative resistance votes he wants. That guy, Donald Trump, they're all on the same team. They're fighting for the same mission. This phony war in the Republican Party is Fugazi. All they wanted was Elon Musk to go in there with the sledgehammer, and that's exactly what they did. We hadn't even brought up the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, one of the really important things that the American public has gotten since the 2008 financial crash. It's one of the few feathers in the cap of Elizabeth Warren that'll give her, even though she's a snake in the grass. And now that's probably kaput now. And addition to all of the other things. And instead of rallying the troops and being like, yeah, guys, this is a serious threat. We're going to use our 6 million subscribers to do something about it. They were like, no, guys, don't worry. Just watch the Young Turks, send us some memberships, and everything will be fine.
Yeah, and again, JD Vance, you're right. He's usually propped up as like, he's the populist right. He's the populist Republican. He literally wrote the foreword in Project 2025 authors or founders book, right? So clearly there's not the separation that she's pretending there is between the populist MAGA base and the old school, Heritage Foundation Republicans like Liz Cheney and Mitch McConnell or whatever. No, it is all the same thing. It's 100% all the same thing. But either way, that's the main meat and potatoes. Ana Kasparian coming out admitting that she was wrong. I'd love to see some more of that. I'd love to see her come out and admit that she was wrong about a lot of other things, that she was wrong about the left, and apologize to some of the people specifically that she's smeared, like Emma Vigeland. But either way, pretty funny.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, the level of wrongness that we've seen, the consistent wrongness that we've seen from Ana Kasparian and the Young Turks and Cenk Uygur, I mean, you just have to pack up and go, right?